All right, we're underway on a Friday. Welcome in Section 1904. And apologies again because they're doing some sort of sanding on a fence close to my house. So don't adjust your headphones. Don't adjust whatever speaker it is that you're listening to this podcast. It's definitely coming through my microphone. John Gennaro, I will mute this as often as I can. But thank you very much for whatever technical wizardry you will pull off here editing this podcast today.
Yeah, don't worry. It'll be fine. I'll get most of that out of there. You did just remind me of something really funny. So we did that AMA on the Padres subreddit yesterday, and I thought it was fun for an hour, just shooting the shit back and forth with some people over there. And then like immediately after that, I saw on Twitter, because you know people kept saying, "I miss you on radio, I miss you on radio," and I thought you were going to say, "Don't adjust your radio dial," and then you went into you didn't do that. But people were like, "I miss you on radio." And you're like, "Hey, we're doing a show every day. Here I am." And then you tweeted out the link to the show, I think on Twitter. And it was like 12:05. And this guy's like, "I really miss listening to you every day at 12 o'clock. And you were like, "Show's right there. It's right there. It's 12:05. Turn it on, buddy."
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that yesterday. That's the first time that's the longest I've ever spent on Reddit. And I don't know that I was operationally successful, because I had to refresh my page a bunch, and I even had to text you and say, like, what's going on here? I'm not seeing any questions, and some people chimed in with some questions, but it was an enjoyable experience. I think, though, it is interesting. People keep asking, like, hey, when are you going to get back on radio? When are you going to get back on radio? And well, the answer is, like, I am on radio once a week with the midweek show, and I'm doing these games, and that's occupying a ton of time.
Yep.
And then we've started this business called Section 1904. I do appreciate it, and I think the thing that you learn about being in radio is you just become part of people's routines.
Yeah.
That, when and I guess we're going on about a year now. I don't know the exact date, but it was about a year ago that we had our last show over on Extra, or whatever it's called, San Diego Sports 760. And, I think, at that time, people had reached out and said, I don't know, like my muscle memory at 12 o'clock is distorted now because I'm just used to getting in a car or putting on the app or doing whatever. And it's kind of flattering when you hear that sort of stuff. But, the other takeaway is, like, we hope that this becomes part of your routine. I know it's not every day at 12 o'clock. And today is going to be one where John and I just sort of said, I don't really know what we're going to talk about, but it's been a dark and dreary week. Maybe we have something uplifting for people to listen to, something that could be a little bit more entertaining than me fretting about with the Mexican national team that's playing in Los Angeles this weekend, right? So, we've had those kind of conversations, or waking up to another Middle Eastern crisis, right? But I'm getting sidetracked here. But we do hope that this podcast ends up becoming part of your routine. I would like to certainly think of it that way. What is your routine? Do you have a podcast that's part of your daily routine?
No, I have my podcasts kind of live in a priority list in my head. I have the ones that, like, when they come out, I'm like, yeah, I'm listening to that today. And then there's other ones where it's like I get in my car and I'm like, what podcast do I have? Oh, I have that one? Okay, I'll listen to that. But I don't sit around and go like, there's no podcast I don't think that I listen to on a daily basis. Mostly because we do this. And, like, I didn't get a chance to really get into this on Reddit, but I remember you used to tell me all the time, I'd be like, do you listen to this? Do you listen to that? Do you listen to this? And you'd be like, I don't like to listen to a lot of other sports people talking about the Padres or the Chargers or whatever, because that stuff seeps into your head and it takes over your thoughts. And then you're just repeating what someone else is saying as opposed to coming up with an original thought. And that's kind of been me. So I'll listen to, like, national NBA podcasts. I really enjoy those. I listen to some political podcasts, but, like, I've really shied away from listening to, like, Padres podcasts since we've started doing this, because I'm like, I don't want to just be repeating the stuff that I'm hearing from there.
Right. And the other thing that happens too is sometimes not only is there a temptation to repeat something, even if it's subconsciously, but then the opposite thing happens where you're like, hey, I've got an opinion. And, I listened to this other show, and this other show host had the same opinion, right? Which is possible. And then you talk yourself out of that opinion. You're like, well, if Chris Ello's saying that, then I can't say that.
Yeah, I got to come up with something new. Yeah.
I mean, if Ello's saying that, then I guess it's a good take,
Yeah.
So, or am I going to be accused of stealing his take? And that's sort of the spot that you never really want to be in when you're a host, because I always presume that people sampled other shows and other stations. And I'm not just saying this specifically about Elo. It could be about anybody. So, like even the other day after the Padres played the day game on Wednesday, I happened to be in the car and I heard a little bit from John and Jim. And I was like, oh, man, that was what I was thinking, too. And part of you is like, oh, that's a good take from Jim. And then the next part is like, yeah, but can I still use that?
Yeah. Can I make it better? How can I make it better?
Yeah, what can I do? Like, how can I launch on that one? So it's tough. It is tough. What is uplifting in your life? Happy Father's Day, by the way, to you. Hey, you know what your dad would want for Father's Day? How about a subscription to the Section 1904 podcast? You get the front row seat delivered to your inbox every single day. John links in a bunch of stories, some things that happen in sports that maybe were lost on you. Like, did you know that there's a major golf tournament happening now? I'm not saying that John's putting in U.S. Open links, but the U.S. Open is happening right now. And there's the Stanley Cup, and that's happening right now. And apparently, by all reviews, it's very good. So maybe some of these stories have slipped past you, and John will be there to support it. That comes with a subscription as low as $5 a month. And somebody asked us on the Discord about merch, and I can tell you that I think that that's going to be a priority for us here in the next couple of weeks.
It's coming.
It is coming, so we look forward to that. The Discord channel, that's always a bit of fun and entertainment, and I'm really happy to see people posting pictures from their vacations, and people are interacting with one another about credit cards, something else John and I will have to figure out here too.
Yeah.
We have to figure out what credit card will be the official business card of Section 1904. So get that a subscription to Section 1904. It's $5 a month, as low as $5 a month, and you get all sorts of access. And we need to be listener supported if we're going to be successful at doing this. So we need it, and we want you to be part of the community that we are calling Section 1904. What are you doing for Father's Day?
So my brother, who is also a father, my older brother is in LA for work, and he's there last week and next week. So he's not going to be able to be with his kid on Father's Day. Who's my brother lives in North Carolina typically, and so I invited him to come down. So he's renting a car. He's coming down. We're going to hang out, throw some stuff on the grill, drink some beers by the pool. And then my cousin actually reached out to me and was like, hey, what are you guys doing? Because her husband and their kids are going to Legoland for the day. That's how he decided he wanted to spend Father's Day. He wants to take his kids to Legoland. But they only have 3 passes. So my cousin, the wife, the mother of this family, was like, yeah, so like I don't really have anything to do. So like, what are you doing on Father's Day? And I was like, my brother's going to be in town. We're going to be grilling and in the pool. And she's like, count me in. And then it sounds like the Legoland crew is going to come right over when they're done over there. So all of a sudden I have like an impromptu party scheduled for Sunday for Father's Day, which will be nice. It'll be fun.
All right. Well, that's good. I must admit, I was a bit taken back that a dad wants to go to Legoland on Father's Day. Yeah,
me too.
I thought, stereotypically speaking here, because I have had friends, dads, who on Father's Day would like nothing more than to be left completely alone and completely without child or children.
Yep.
Let me just watch the final of the U.S. Open, and please take these children and go someplace else.
Yeah, my Father's Day routine is typically me and 3 other fathers find a golf course somewhere and go spend the day not having to parent, not having to deal with meltdowns, and just drinking and playing golf. I imagine I'll probably do that on one of the upcoming weekends to make up for the fact that I'm not getting it this weekend, but at least I'll get to see some family and grill some food. And I think we're leaning towards going to get some Cardiff Crack and throwing that on the grill.
Nice.
And drinking beers by the pool. Should be a nice day. I think it's gonna be like 75 degrees here. So it'll be all right. But yeah, there'll be. I think even in that situation, I'll be looking at my wife anytime my daughter cries for something and be like, "Hey, can you get that? It's Father's Day. Do I need to be doing that?"
Yeah. Do you have like a special beer koozie, that you'll have around the pool here that says something, about being the dad and being being Father's Day or whatever?
You'll appreciate this. I have like one beer cozy that I use, and I invested in a canned cocktail company years ago. My wife and I did. And when we did, they sent us as a joke a koozie that said, I invested in this company, and all I got was this stupid koozie. And we got a message a couple months ago that they're basically like going out of business. They're going under. They're like, hey, don't ask for your money back. Like, we're sorry, we're out of business. And I went and I pulled out the koozie, and I was like, it's true now. The only thing I got out of that was this koozie.
That's it. That's the last remaining thing. We got a bunch of them around from our wedding. We had beer koozies made for the wedding, since we had a beer donkey, that had these saddlebags filled with ice and beer. We got married in Puerto Vallarta, and it says to have and to hold and to keep your beer cold.
Yes.
It says that on the side of the beer koozie. Well, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Do appreciate that, whether it's sports or whether it's playing golf or hanging out by the pool. Do you have a sports priority? Obviously, mine is Minnesota United. I'm going to spend my Friday watching some Minnesota United and listening to some Minnesota United podcasts so I can learn a little bit about this team. I will tell you, Minnesota United is level on points with SDFC, sitting second, third in the Western Conference standings, but a little bit off my radar are the Loons, the black and blue of Minnesota United. They're a little bit off my radar. Starting a season, I was anticipating big matchups against LA Galaxy and LAFC and Seattle Sounders. And I will say, I don't know a ton here, so it's going to be a pretty heavy crash course for me getting set for Minnesota United. But that's probably going to be the highlight of my sports weekend. What about you, Padres or something else?
I mean, Padres will be there. SDFC will be on when they're playing. I'm obviously looking forward to all of those, but this has been a really, really good NBA Finals, and we have Game 4 tonight, and I'm really excited for that because Game 4 in an NBA Finals between two kind of evenly matched teams is the best game. It's the game where you kind of figure out the big adjustments that everyone's going to try and make, and you see if they work or they don't. So I'm looking forward to that. And then when I was in Florida, I got to watch a Stanley Cup Final game, and that was really good. And last night, I thought of it at a certain point. I was like, isn't the game on? And I turned it on right when the third period was starting, and the third period and overtime of that game was fantastic. I don't know if you followed it at all. Florida took a 3-0 lead in the first period.
It was on. I was out with a friend for happy hour, and it was on.
It was such a great comeback. Like scoring, going down 3-0 and then scoring 4 goals in a row. And then, you end up in overtime because you give up a goal in the last 15 seconds and you still fight back and you score again in overtime to tie up that series 2-2. It's been great. So I don't think I'm going to miss a second of the NBA Finals game tonight. And then I think the next one after that will be Monday. And I'm going to try and watch as much as I can of the NHL Stanley Cup Final as well.
All right, good news there. And Padres, I think Padres Diamondbacks kind of on in the background for me this weekend. I'm with you. NBA Finals tonight, and then a ton of soccer and some of these tournaments. I guess I'm gonna tune into some of this just to see what it looks like, to see if they can bring anybody into this building in Miami with the Club World Cup starting at 5:00. I mean, it's going to be on opposite us, so I won't be paying too much attention to it. Our pregame gets going at 5:00, but then you get the U.S. playing, and as I mentioned, Mexico's playing tomorrow night in Inglewood. I don't know. I mean,
are they playing at SoFi?
Yeah. Yeah, Mexico and the Dominican Republic.
And they can seat 100,000 there? Something like that?
I don't know who's going to go to this.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was looking a little bit earlier on social media. I saw that ESPN's Herculez Gomez, who I like a lot.
He's good.
And he's been a guest many times with me on radio from all parts of the world. I mean, we had him on from Qatar and Russia for the World Cup. But I saw him criticizing the Mexican coach, Javier Aguirre, today, because obviously he was asked a question about what it is that's happening in LA. I know I said we would try to be...
I know.
I guess this is up. I don't know what this is. But he was asked a question and sort of just gave a very stock, like, focus on the field, all that sort of stuff.
Didn't take the bait and make a big political announcement.
Did not use the opportunity for any sort of political commentary, which I guess would be perceived as disappointing for some people. And I understand why. And I thought that Herculez had, he had some pointed commentary there that I thought was fair. But I do think they probably said to Aguirre, like, let's kind of stay safe here. If he says something off the cuff, then maybe, everybody's now, I don't know, man. I don't know what you're supposed to do in that situation. You have players, who live in the U.S. I think Aguirre has a house it's an awful thing. It's easy to do a lot of this stuff on social media, which is why I don't do it, because so much of this is just, it requires a little bit more nuance than just simply saying, well, he should have said this or he shouldn't have said that. But, the message I think that's being received is, we just consider the fans people to buy our tickets. And that's really all we view, or how we view the Mexican fans in the United States. And, I understand that that's maybe tough message for a lot of people to try to process.
Look, not everyone loves the fact that Michael Jordan said, "Hey, Republicans buy shoes too." Some people were like, "That was him pussying out of a conversation where he should have been stronger." And I didn't mean to use that word, but that's the word that I hear used about that sometimes. I'll bring us back to the light a little bit, and I'll tell you about my evening, which was not supposed to involve watching the third period and overtime of the Stanley Cup Final. My wife and I had found ourselves with tickets to what was supposed to be a great event. There's a thing in Encinitas called Fox Point Farms. It's a really cool idea. They basically built a community of housing, and then at the center of the community, there's a grocery store, a restaurant, like farm to table restaurant. There's a brewery. There's a little like town square park thing, and and I think there's literal farms there that feed into the grocery store and the restaurant and the brewery. And it's just meant to be this like kind of holistic community that grows its own stuff and lives off its own stuff. And there was an event there with a chef that my wife and I have been big fans of. We've gone to her restaurants. We have her cookbook. And she was doing a thing where it was like a tasting menu, several different courses. And she was going to tell stories about like where these ingredients came from and why they mixed together, et cetera, et cetera. We were very, very excited for this. We had the babysitter lined up. My daughter was excited to hang out with her babysitter, all this stuff. And then yesterday afternoon, we get a notification that there's a fire nearby. And at first, it's like fire nearby. It's a few miles away, and it's like 4 acres. And we're like, okay, we'll keep an eye on this. And my wife, when she was in her 20s, actually had her house burned down in a fire, in one of the San Diego fires. So she's very, very nervous when it comes to fire coming anywhere near the house. So the next notification we got was that it was 20 acres, which was just a few minutes later, and that there was an area, I think it was like the San Alejo Hills area, that was being asked to evacuate. And then it grew to 40 acres, and there was an area where it wasn't evacuation go, it was evacuation set, like be ready to go. And that came all the way up to across the street from my house. Like I can look out this window here and I can see a house on the other side of the street. And that house was basically told to get ready to evacuate. And at that point, we're like, I don't think we can go to this thing anymore. And we even like called the babysitter, or maybe the babysitter reached out to us, and she was like, hey, so my family's packing up to evacuate. Is it cool if I like don't come tonight? We're like, yeah, sure. But it worked out okay. The firefighters got on top of it. Unlike the LA fires, which had such like crazy wind that they couldn't get planes or helicopters up, there was tons of planes and helicopters up there dropping water on top of it or fire retardant or whatever they were doing. They slowed it down. We ended up not having to evacuate, but we had our whole house and all of our stuff like packed up. The car was packed up. We were making plans to go to my cousin's house. And it was lucky that we had to stay home, but then we had to figure out what we were doing with the rest of our night, how we were doing dinner. So we ordered some sushi and watched some of the Stanley Cup Final, which, all things told, it could have been a worse night. I could have been evacuated. My neighborhood could have burned down. So a little bit of positivity there. It ended up being good. And I got to watch a very, very good hockey game.
Will this get you to watch Game 5? Like, will you go out of your way to plan around watching Game 5?
I think I will. I will. And I don't think I would have otherwise.
Tied 2-2 between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers.
Correct.
That is correct.
It's every one of these games has been fantastic, and I've only caught bits and pieces of them, and now I'm kind of in. It's the only time of the year when I actually will watch a hockey game from start to finish is in the Stanley Cup Final, but I'm excited for it nonetheless.
Do you agree with the sentiment that it's often put out on social media that the best postseason in sports is the hockey postseason?
Yeah, there's the famous John Boyce tweet, and he was like, "Why would you ever do cocaine and ride a motorcycle out of a helicopter when you could just watch playoff overtime hockey?" and we got some of that last night. We got some of the doing cocaine and riding a motorcycle out of a helicopter playoff overtime hockey. This is the most I've talked hockey into a microphone in years. And it's not because I have so much respect for hockey fans. I just cannot do it any justice whatsoever. I know, me too.
I cannot. I don't know what's happening. I don't know who the players are. You could put $1 million on the table in front of me, and I couldn't tell you a single player that's playing in the final. I have no idea. I don't know who any of them are. I was at the bar yesterday with somebody, and somebody knew one of the guys from one of the teams, like a McConnell or something. I don't know. Like I said, I mean, this is where I don't want to talk about it because I just don't know. I can't do it any justice. I cannot do this any justice whatsoever, other than to say when it's on television, it's very visually stimulating. And I find myself liking it, but not enough that I'm ever going to really circle back and watch it.
It's great to go in person, too. Haven't been to a Gulls game in a couple of years. Really should, because hockey in person is a lot of fun. I think the last Gulls game I went to had like 7 fights and was a really good game on top of that. And I walked out of there going, that's going to be hard to top. No, it's really hard to get me to go back to a Gulls game.
I got hooked up with some primo seats for a Gulls game and went with Leah. And we were going down, and it was one of those like, no, keep going, like keep going. We were on the boards.
Yeah, I did a game on the boards. It was great.
And her in sports, it's like, she's there sort of for the event of it all.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like we're on the front row, like we are all the way down. So we get all the way down there, and she has a beer in her hand, and she's like, oh my god! And so she puts the beer. There's a little ledge on the wall.
Got knocked off.
And she takes her phone, so of course she's going to take a picture because she's on the ice, and this is going to go straight to Instagram, right? Like the influencer that she is.
Yeah.
And as she's turning to take the picture, there's a check into the boards right there. Beer goes flying up in the air. Like it lands all over us. She's like, "Oh my god!" So that was our introduction to hockey at the sports arena way back in the day. Yeah, a couple quickies here.
Sure.
Just because, I do think there's a couple of things that are interesting. We can spend a minute talking about Mike Shildt and the Padres. I know you saw the same headline, or this was part of the front row seat today. And it's an interesting bit of analysis, isn't it, from Kevin Acee, who has a story, potential pitching crisis looms as Padres face crucial point of 2025 season. And that's a headline that John is going to get me to click on it. Mm-hmm. And I clicked on this because and then I see Kevin Acee's the author of said piece, and I'm going, whoa, all right. He's talking about a potential pitching crisis looming for the Padres as they face the crucial point of 2025. And Kevin does what he does. He writes, there's a million stats in here, and by all analysis, I think it's a pretty good read. And if you're a Padre fan, you probably would want to read this. What stood out to you from Kevin's piece here today? And then I want to mention something that I read in The Athletic about Mike Shildt as well.
Oh, that's great, because I didn't see anything about Mike Shildt in The Athletic, so this will be new information to me. I almost grabbed my desk and flipped the table over when I saw this quote today. I included it in front row seat, but this was the quote, and I'll start with Kevin's little bit of lead up. The manager, talking about Shildt, rarely comes close to calling out his players. He frequently denies commenting even on obvious events, if doing so could be construed as a disparaging comment. What a nice guy. But after Nick Pivetta threw 93 pitches in 4 innings on Monday, Shildt said it like it was. Quote, "A lot of guys are carrying the mail," he said of the bullpen. "We're pushing, piecing it together, and competing at the same time. But, we're gonna need some depth out of some starters." Unquote. And Kevin then said, "This is not a swipe at Pivetta. In fact, Pivetta had been one of the Padres' most effective and most durable starters. The rotation as a whole, however, has gone through stretches in which is burdening the bullpen far too much." This is a continuation of the thing I was mad about yesterday when he's pulling Randy Vasquez after 70 pitches. You know why Randy Vasquez didn't go deeper in that game, Mike? Because you pulled him. You were the one. He didn't decide to, Pivetta having a bad first inning and then the throwing 40 pitches in the first inning and still getting you 4 innings, that happens, right? But the Vasquez thing is out of control. And Darren, I looked this up because yesterday you were saying, well, hey, if the third time through the order is a problem with Vasquez and they want to avoid that, I guess that's their right to do it. I know ERA is a dumb stat. I have more if you want them. And look, third time through the order. Does the batting average against Vasquez go up? Yeah. Does the OBP go up because he's walking more guys? Yeah. But his ERA the first time through the order is 2.73. His ERA the second time through the order is 4.25. His ERA the third time through the order is 4.15. It's not like he's got a 9 ERA the third time through the order. Why aren't they giving him a chance? This is what we were talking about yesterday. Yeah. Give him a chance to do it before you go man, our pitchers really need to. And think about it this way. If they're saying Randy Vasquez cannot face the order a third time, that means that to get to 6 innings in a start, he has to be perfect. No one can get on base. And if 4 guys get on base over the course of his start, he's not giving you 5 full innings. So what are we doing? Give the guy a chance to give you 5 or 6 innings instead of just criticizing them. And I was looking at like Kolek and Berger, and it's like the third time through the order penalty is not dramatically different with these guys than it is with Pivetta or King or other really good starters, Cease. I don't understand. And Mike Shildt seems to be the guy in the fucking hot dog costume going, we're looking for the guy who's causing the problem. The bullpen is overworked. What can we do about this? It's your job, Mike. You're the one in charge of managing the team.
After 70 pitches, I know. And let's see, he gave up the home run to Conforto like we mentioned yesterday, but it's not like the bases were loaded.
Right.
There was nobody, there was you just didn't want to let him face Shohei Ohtani. And guess what? He's lined up to pitch against the Dodgers next week. So, are we going to do this again?
Apparently.
Like, already, do you have to have your bullpen on red alert because you only know that you're going to give him 70 pitches? That's the whole thing that we discussed yesterday about having a plan or having a script. And it does make you wonder, like, was this unilaterally just Mike? Because your point is right, that Mike Shildt is the one that goes out there and takes the baseball away from him and talks about a plan. One would think that you might collaborate with your front office about that plan. One would think, I don't know. It's like the Dodgers. I know a lot of people couldn't wait to go attack Dave Roberts because, he left this sour guy out there the other day, and then he brought in Kike Hernandez. But do you guys really think that Dave Roberts can do that on his own?
Yeah.
Because I would tell you, I don't think he can. I think he's probably got to, somebody's going to tell him, like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, can't have this guy out here for 111 pitches unless, that is somehow cleared through somebody, and you can't just go to a position player. What are you doing? Like, you can't do that
in the
sort of
6th
stuff.
inning.
Yeah, I would think that sort of stuff is probably organizational. I don't know about the Padres. I don't know if they said, Mike, listen, doesn't matter what the game situation is. Get him out of there before he has to face Shohei Ohtani a third time and Freddie Freeman. And like, would we all second guess it? And would everybody be like, how could you let him face Shohei Ohtani for a third time? If Shohei hits a 400-foot home run, maybe. But, you can't then have a story come out there. And we know Kevin's pretty close with the organization, particularly this manager.
Yeah.
So, that he's putting it out there seemingly is a message. And I wonder, is Randy Vasquez reading Kevin Acee today? Like, yeah. I mean, I guess the guy's got a point. Or, is this something like it's like organizationally is this sort of message being sent out there? I do wonder a little bit about that. He goes on to talk a lot about the offense, but I'm with you. Same thing. Like, Mike, you're the one that goes out there and takes the baseball from the guy. And then, here we are 2 days later, any game that's going to accelerate a Wandy Peralta appearance or any plan that accelerates a Wandy Peralta or precipitate, like, I would say that's probably a plan that we should rethink. That's just my own opinion.
And this goes back to it's weird when the manager is pointing fingers, right? And like, I've bumped into on social media the Luis Campusano defenders, few and far between as they are, and they all make the same point, and it's a valid point. Like, the guy's gonna get one at bat a week. I don't know that you can be like, I don't know, man, we gave you opportunities and you fucked him up. Like, one at bat a week is not opportunities. You got to give him a couple chances to see real live pitching. That being said, amongst the Campusano defenders, I don't mean to laugh, but there was a guy or girl in the AMA yesterday who asked us if the team was kind of planning to have Luis Campusano be like the starting first baseman next year once Arise leaves in free agency, and maybe that's why he's taking grounders at first. Luis Campusano cannot possibly be in the long-term plans of this team because they give him a chance once a week, and then when he fails, they all just like wag their finger like, we knew it. We knew he wasn't worth those opportunities. They're not doing anything. But yeah, to your point, like it raises a lot of questions. If AJ Preller is in the clubhouse telling Manny Machado that he likes how he plays a certain way, is he also going to Mike Shildt and saying, make sure Randy Vasquez never faces third time through the order? And is Mike Shildt going back and saying, well, in that case, we should have an opener? No, Mike, we can't do that. Like, how much of this is AJ Preller managing from the front office and how much of it is Mike Shildt? That's a question we've been asking for 7, 8 years now. We're never going to get an answer to it. But it seems really silly for the manager to go up there and be like, someone out here is pulling these pitchers a little early, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, when our most recent piece of evidence is you taking a guy out after 70 pitches. And again, we talked about it yesterday. There were 5 or 6 rockets hit off Randy Vasquez. But, if you got to do it again. You got to go face the Dodgers here in a couple of days. So I don't, what's the message that you're sending towards him as well? Listen, I think the Campusano thing is really one of the bigger mistakes that this front office has made. And it's not that it's very clear that they are very stubborn in believing that Luis Campusano is, a valuable big league player. And it was easy to just dump it on Bob Melvin and say, well, Bob Melvin was full of shit and he didn't like Campusano and he didn't want to play. Now it's the second manager. And I think everybody, and what happens now is you get these managers, it was said to me, in a criticism, a critique of Bob Melvin by somebody who works for the Padres. Like, listen, Bob, if you don't like, this is sort of just, this was us talking.
Yeah.
He goes, listen, if Bob doesn't like Campusano, that's fine. Like if you don't like him, that's fine. But stop telling us that Austin Nola and Jorge Alfaro are great catchers, right? Because you just sound like you're full of shit. Yeah. And there were players that didn't want to throw to him, and everybody saw what happened in Pittsburgh with him and Snell. So, it's not like this is anything that is new. And then the same thing happened in spring training this year. Like is Mike Shildt actually, does he really think that Maldonado and Diaz are the second coming of Yadier Molina? Or like, is he full of shit because he just doesn't want to play Campusano, right? Yeah. So like history is repeating itself, and there's some sort of breakdown here between the front office and how they view Campusano still, and how it is that the managers see Campusano, and the Padres are just like their front office is really stubborn about this, about Campusano, that he's just not getting any playing time, and now it's like multiple managers. You can't just blame Sleepy Bob on this one.
No,
remember they had to defensively. They took Campusano out of games. I've never seen this before. If you have a shitty left fielder, it's okay if you take that guy out for defensive purposes.
Yeah.
But they were taking Campusano out of actual games because relievers are like, I don't want to throw to that guy. Yeah. So, that was happening. And it was happening right in front of us. So I don't, this front office, I think, just needs to, and I don't know what value he has. I don't think there's any value out there for Campusano.
There's no value.
But it is kind of clear to everybody if you're watching. These managers are twisting themselves in the knots to try to convince you that, Martin Maldonado and Austin Nola and Kyle Higashioka are these great catchers. And the front office is like, it just, it's been a disconnect now for years and through multiple coaching staff. So they botched this, maybe he had value and maybe you could have gotten something for him a while ago. You can't get anything for him at this point. There's nothing to get for him other than get the guy out of here and give him a chance someplace else. I don't know what you're supposed to do here anymore.
My guess is he's done at some point this year in the offseason, and then next year it'll be like, oh, he's the 26th man on the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're going to give him a shot, and then he'll disappear. By the way, our buddy H.J. Preller texted me a month ago. He was at a Mexican League baseball game, and he was like, Francisco Mejia's in the lineup for this Mexican League team. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, he's batting after Robinson Cano, in case you're wondering how good Francisco Mejia turned out to be. Wow. I try not to do this to you, but I'm going to ask you if you saw a thing that I did not previously send to you or previously bring up. Did you see the Juan Soto at bat against MacKenzie Gore yesterday or the day before?
Which one? There were 2 of them that were floating around on social media.
So
one time Gore got him and one time he got Gore.
Okay, so I saw the one where he hit the home run, and it was the first pitch was a fastball he barely missed, and he stares at him. And the second pitch was a fastball he barely missed, and he stares at him. And the third pitch, he hits over the wall, and then he stared at him while he ran the bases. And I was like, that just there was a day and age in baseball where staring at the pitcher while you rounded the bases was a guaranteed fight. That's it's almost like those are fighting words. And I was like, what the fuck is going on between these two? Is it just that Soto is aggravated that Gore was part of the package that he got traded for? Or maybe there was another at bat that stirred up some shit that I'm unaware of. But I was like, that's fascinating, even from a Padres perspective. Is it because it feels like their paths crossed with the Padres, with Soto coming in and Gore coming out? And I was like, I want to know the answer to what's going on there. And I saw someone ask Soto afterwards, and he his reply to what was going on there was, "We were just saying hi," which is just a very baseball way of saying, like, I fucking hate that guy.
Huh. I did see, this is a good transition into The Athletic.
Yeah.
So The Athletic does their anonymous player poll, right? We talked about this in the NBA, that Tyrese Halliburton was voted the most overrated player.
Yeah.
And we had a good conversation about that earlier this week in our NBA Finals preview. They have one for baseball. So there's a couple of stories here, and they're all linked to one another. So there's these hyperlinks that keep you, if you're interested in this sort of stuff. And it's anonymous players. What were the rules here? Let's see. It was conducted in spring training. More than 100 players, and they were just asked a bunch of questions. One of them is like, which hitter do you least want to face in the ninth inning of a game? And Juan Soto was the runaway leader from baseball players, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The one that might be more relevant here, and this is by Dennis Lin. Dennis Lin gets the sole byline on this, not a collection of the Athletics MLB writers, just Dennis Lin. I didn't realize that. This came out 2 days ago. A handful of questions. Which manager, aside from your own, would you most like to play for? Who do you think won it?
Would you most like to play for?
Most like to play for. 121 Major League Baseball players in spring training responded to this.
I'm going to say Dave Roberts is an option, but I'm going to say it's not Dave Roberts. I'm going to say it's, I also think Aaron Boone is an option here, but I'm going to go with Bochy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bochy, number one, 20 votes. Bochy, Terry Francona. Did you realize that Francona's back in the big leagues?
Wait, hold on. Twins? No. Where is Tito?
Cincinnati. He's with the Reds.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. Bochy, Francona, Stephen Voigt, Craig Counsell, Brian Snitker, Dave Roberts.
These are all former players, right? Every one of them?
Yeah. Down the list, Mike Shildt got 3 votes. Okay, interesting. And then he goes on to explain a little bit about, he cherry picks a handful of comments about Bochy, a lot of championships. I like his old school style. Which manager, aside from your own, would you not want to play for? Now, only 40 people responded to this, but which manager, aside from your own, would you not want to play for? This is a question. Players were offered anonymity. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 managers who received more than 1 vote from the respondents here. Who would you guess? Who would you have guessed, since I told you the answer before we rolled? Who would you have guessed was number 1 on this list of managers? I would have thought like Brian Snitker would have been on that list because he seems to be going back and forth with players quite a bit, doesn't he? But that's not the case.
Yeah, and it has to be current manager, right? They can't just say like Ozzie Guillen.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. Bud Black got 5 votes. So did Oliver Marmol, who's the head coach or the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals. Dennis then does right. Bud Black, who's been since dismissed from the historically terrible Colorado Rockies. And they included a caveat in their answer only because the Rockies stink. So it wasn't that they didn't like Buddy, because I was like, really? I didn't realize that Buddy would have this sort of stain. But what is interesting is that Mike Shildt is on this list. So Bud Black and Marmol get 5 votes apiece, and then in second place is Mike Shildt with 4 votes. I'm like, wait, what? And this is Dennis who is getting the byline here, and he even writes about it. And the potential option of more concrete knowledge. Some respondents seem to rely on distant impressions. Quote, he's gotten mad publicly for some things that didn't seem that serious. An NL position player said of the Padres' Mike Shildt. Like, what? He's gotten mad publicly for some things that don't seem that serious. So I think that would be called eyewash in baseball.
For
but
sure.
Mike Shildt is like, again, and it's 40 players out of however many are in the sport, several hundred, 750, I believe it is. I was like, wow, Mike Shildt, number 2 on that list, with a quote from Dennis. So I don't know what life is like for Dennis, but I guess good on him for putting this out there.
I wish I had time to do this research. Some quick Googling didn't help me. I would love to know how many current MLB managers are either people that never played in Major League Baseball, or in the case of Bud Black, were not position players. Because I think there's a real chance that like Mike Shildt is like the only one and Bud Black is the only one. Like I think everyone else might be a former MLB player that was a position player. Like even Bochy, like it was forever ago, but he was an MLB catcher, right? Like even Sleepy Bob was an MLB player, even though he was a bench player. Will Venable, Alex Cora, your boy AJ Hinch played, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So like
he was a catcher.
But almost all of these guys were former MLB position players. And like, I know some of this from the NBA world. Like you're a little bit more tapped into the baseball world, but like a lot of NBA players, it is a big, big deal for them that their head coach be someone who played in the NBA, because they feel like they need that to relate to them. So I could understand maybe a little looking their nose down at Mike Shildt, and Mike Shildt probably, would take some issue with that.
Yeah, some of these quotes are very funny now that I'm actually reading this story, and you're right, because Dennis does, take some of these quotes that he got from these players on Buddy Black, because he doesn't stop talking when he's in the dugout. And as a player, it gets kind of annoying. Plus, it means I'd be pitching in Colorado. Honestly, whoever was the Rockies manager was who I was going to say. That's the quote Dennis got about Buddy Black. On Marmol, I really don't know many managers. I'm just trying to think of somebody in our division so I can say somebody. Who is the Cardinals guy? Yeah, just put him down. That's very funny. Ron Washington was tied with Mike Shildt with 4 votes apiece. Here's the rationale, the reasoning behind voting for Ron Washington. Quote, because I want to use my cell phone.
That's hilarious.
It's very funny. That is really, really funny. So there you go. That's why those people were voted the way they were. I would also point out 121 about who you most want to play for. Shildt got 3 votes there. So
yeah. Hey,
also making a list of managers that these guys don't want to play for are 2 managers who I don't think are managing. Gabe Kapler somehow makes this list, and somebody named Derek Shelton. I don't know who that is. Who is that guy?
See. Shelton. Okay,
Derek
so
Shelton.
Derek Shelton was. It looks like he was the previous manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates. No longer. Kind of like Bud Black with the Colorado Rockies. Can you name for me the current manager of the Colorado Rockies?
I cannot.
I've never seen this name before. Warren Schaefer?
Okay. Schaefer.
Sure.
Interesting.
Schaefer.
Warren
Yeah.
Schaefer. Got it. Yeah, it's funny. I always like these anonymous polls. It's like good. It's a good segment on radio every year when they pop up.
Yeah.
Which organizations have good reputations? Dodgers, Braves, Cubs, Mets, Guardians, Red Sox. Yeah. So anyhow, you can go read all that sort of stuff if you want. But yeah, Mike Shildt, who now we're talking about from a Union Tribune piece and a story in the Athletic, has been in the media for a little bit. All right, that's about all I got here today. Yeah, I keep getting these spam calls on my phone. Do you get a lot of these?
Tons, like 3 a day.
Do they leave voicemails?
Sometimes.
What are they trying to convince you of? Because
I
I
don't
get
know.
one very consistently, which is that I have some sort of perilous tax situation that I must address immediately.
I get those. Do you get the texts of people saying you owe money to the tolls? Like
Yeah, I got one today.
Yeah, those are fake. Don't click on those.
I got one of those today. Like, am I gonna have to change my number?
I had a buddy who was he was in Vegas and he was drinking with a bunch of his buddies. This was during March Madness. And he got the thing saying like you ran a toll, and he was like, "Oh shit!" Like they had just arrived in Vegas and he was like, "Did I hit some sort of toll on the way in or whatever?" And he clicked the thing, and like 30 seconds later, like all of his credit cards and bank accounts like closed. They were like, "No, your identity was stolen. You were on a list." Blah blah blah. And he was like, "All I did was click the thing," and he had to call his wife from Vegas and be like, I don't know what to do because like I can't access our money, but I'm here." And it was madness. Don't ever click on those.
Yeah, I get at least a call a day. I'm looking at my call log now, and it's all potential spam, all these missed calls. And some of them leave voicemails telling me that that the IRS is going to come show up at my door. If the IRS is still a thing, I don't even know if it is. But maybe that was a Doge thing. But that like I'm in big trouble, and I better call these people. I'm always like, what?
how they
Like,
get you.
and I feel bad like for unsuspecting people who maybe aren't tech savvy, and like I'm kind of there. Like I didn't even know how to use Reddit yesterday. And like my mom got some random text about a parking fine that she didn't pay. And is it possible that like you could get a parking fine? I will tell you, I got a ticket in Italy And yeah, I got something in the mail. I was like, oh, that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And like it turned out not to be bullshit. And it
Yeah.
ended up being hundreds of dollars because I thought like this is more bullshit. Somebody knew that I rented a car in Italy and sent me some extortion letter trying to get money out of me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to pay that. And then like before I knew it, it was credit. So how do you even know anymore?
This is you sometimes send me the deep fake stuff and go like, Jesus, this looks real. It's like, yeah, it's getting really hard to tell what's real and what's bullshit anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and then like all the AI stuff now. It seems like there's been a recent referendum on a lot of the AI ChatGPT stuff that is just giving you flat out wrong information.
Completely wrong information. I asked it a question the other day about the Padres. Oh, that's what I was trying to figure out, how many pitches the starting pitchers throw before the manager pulls them. And it referred to Mike Shildt as the Kansas City Royals manager, but then attributed his when he pulls his pitchers to the San Diego Padres. And I'm like, what is this? This is just nonsense. As we head into the weekend, there's NBA Finals tonight. There's also a San Diego Wave game tonight. Wave are really good. We don't talk about them enough, but Wave are really good. Stanley Cup Final tomorrow, STFC tomorrow, obviously Padres tonight and all weekend.
U.S. Open on your radar? Not on your radar.
U.S. Open, I'm probably going to try and find a TV for it. I'm not going to pay too much attention to it. But tomorrow, Sunday is Father's Day. Tomorrow is like the start of Club World Cup. The administration is throwing a military parade in Washington, D.C., and they've said...
Is that tomorrow?
That's tomorrow. And they've said anyone who shows up to protest will be met with heavy force, so look forward to finding out what that means. There's also 2,000 protests going on around the country for quote-unquote No King's Day, which I read a thing today in the USA Today that said the ones in LA, they're expecting at least 250,000 people to show up. I have to head downtown for something in San Diego tomorrow. That's around the same time these protests are supposed to happen. And there's one at Waterfront Park and there's one at the Civic Center. And I imagine both of them are just going to walk their way downtown. And I'm like, am I going to get stuck? Am I going to get completely just jammed in at downtown, unable to get in, unable to get out? Like, something like that. Not that I'm against the protest, but all of that is going on, and Israel and Iran are bombing each other, and we're all watching it in real time. Like, it's gonna be a wild weekend for everyone for a million different reasons. This is going to be it like when you walk in on Monday, there's gonna be almost no one going like, man, boring weekend. Like, there's gonna be a million things happening over the next few days.
Yeah, there will be plenty of chatter around your proverbial water cooler.
Yeah,
in
for sports and real life reasons.
I know. I'm looking over my shoulder now, and it's smoke over Tel Aviv. You're like, oh, okay, you know? Like it's sort of. I get it. I understand why the majority of people that are subscribing here, like even yesterday as an example about years and years and years of radio, and I still will maintain the sports will always be the spine of this, but it's not going to be the only limb that we have. Yeah. So. And you do, like, you think about it in the context of sports, like I just talked about the Mexican national team in this position that it's in. And, I get a lot of messages sent my way about how FIFA executives were on some boat in Florida. And, the boat got pulled over by the Coast Guard. And, everybody was searched there because it was a bunch of people who work for Spanish language television. And, like, show us your papers. Like, what? Yeah. I don't know. And try to find space. I mean, that's good for me. Like I can find a little bit of space in 2 hours of calling a silly MLS game, I suppose, relatively speaking. But I'm glad that I have that
between it. I was trying to remember. I know we talked a little bit with Jeremiah Oshan earlier this week about this, and we had part of the conversation on the podcast and part of it off. And I don't remember when he said this, if it was on or off, but. We were talking about the fact that, the Club World Cup, you were reading a statement that essentially said, like, ICE is going to be there. Like, ICE is going to be at these
Booted
games.
And suited. Their words on social media.
And they've tried to, like, walk that back a little bit, but you already see there's supporters of teams basically telling their members, like, hey, we can't guarantee that you're going to be safe if you're, not here legally, so, like, maybe don't go. But I remember Jeremiah saying, like, in response to that, and it was like, hey, like, you'll be asked to have your papers if you're an illegal immigrant. And Jeremiah was like, how would they know? And he was like, do I need to bring my papers with me? Or am I fine because my skin is white? Are they just going to be stopping people whose skin isn't white and be like, we demand to see your papers? Or are they going to be asking everyone? I don't know. But there's just like, there's so much leading into this weekend that it's going to be crazy. To your point, it's why I'm kind of looking forward to, like, tomorrow I have one event downtown at the Children's Museum, and then we're going to a 7-year-old's birthday party. And then on Sunday, the goal is to, like, sit around the pool, drink beer, watch a little sports, but try and just keep a little bit of personal distance away from all of the chaos that's going to be in the news over the next, like, 72 hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, you know. A good thing we have a break and we can just focus on this. Oh, wait, we can't even focus on the sports without having all of these conversations.
Yeah.
Even, you know, dumb U.S. men's national team.
Can't stick to sports.
Nope. Well, I mean, listen, this is you know, that train's left the station a long time ago. So, alrighty. Well, everybody have a great weekend. Have a great time. If you're celebrating Father's Day with your dad or with children or whatever your circumstances are, that's for John, for everybody. We'll talk to you Saturday on 760 at 5 o'clock. Adrian Garcia Marquez will be back. Hopefully he's made his way back into the U.S. He was doing a little bit of international travel. So excited to have Adrian back in the fold. I'm starting to think that game against Club America definitely gave Mikey some options for some players who maybe aren't physically there or physically 100%. So sounds like that was a really, really well-timed match against Club America. So sounds like we might see some of those players who we haven't seen featured a little bit more. We'll see what it looks like.
I have a question.
Yeah.
You filled in doing play-by-play for Adrian for the last 2 SDFC games, right?
Correct.
Did you bark at all? Was there any barking?
I did not. Oh, well, CJ didn't play in the
against Club
America match.
I was going to ask about that. So you got.
And then the Austin game, they didn't really have anything to do there either.
Yeah. Because it was terrible. Yeah. So we got to see the backup goalie finally. I almost checked like the box score because I was like, I wonder if the backup goalie played. I wonder if CJ got a day off. So who's the backup goalie?
His name is Pablo Cisniega, and he's Mexican. He's from Mexico City.
Cool.
So, you know, for him to play against Club America, a team that's located in Mexico City, was probably a pretty big deal. So that was really cool. Not that he had a ton to do. I think he had 1 save. They've had like 2 saves in the last 2 games. So, you know.
There'll be some barking on Saturday, I think.
I think there will be some barking. I think it's good. You know, the thing about play-by-play that is, you know, from a broadcasting standpoint, and maybe this relates to you, John, I don't know. You know, I always tell people when they want to get into broadcasting or when they get into broadcasting, like it's going to take time. You know, like it's just going to take time. You know, as somebody who, you know, you and I were there when Ben and Wood started, right? Or I was there when John and Jim started. I'm like, don't listen to anything. It's like there's an old axiom in food, in restaurants. You know, you never review a restaurant for the first 6 months. Give them a chance to get their menu down. There's going to be some turnover and all that sort of stuff. Same thing in broadcasting. Like, give it a little bit of time. And the thing you learn about play-by-play, I've done it 4 times in 30 years. Like, I think I got a little bit better, but it takes so long to find your voice as a broadcaster. And, you know, there's part of me that wants to maintain a standard that Adrian has, which is impossible. He's been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
But then stylistically, what do I want? And I was talking to Warren, and Warren Barton told me in the lunchroom, he's like, well, have you listened to Ian Dark and Derek Ray? And I'm like, yeah, I love those guys. But they're television English broadcasters on television. It's not radio, you know. And it's like, man, I have so much appreciation for the guys who do it, but it takes time, man. Like, you just try to get better every broadcast, which is what I hopefully was doing. I did feel like Austin was a little bit better than Club America, just because I had these voices in my head. And ultimately, all that matters is what you do during the goals. You know, nothing else matters.
Also, you know, Club America was not an MLS team, and you know, you got those rosters pretty late, and it was a lot of players who had just like never really played before for both teams. Like, that's a hard assignment. That's a difficult assignment.
It is. I appreciate it. So, all right. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you very much for all the support, and we'll talk to you. Stay safe out there. Stay safe. It's a kind of crazy, chaotic world that we're living in.
Yeah.
So stay safe, and we'll do this on Monday.